Welcome and thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Maria Dowd, CEO of My Money Life. We serve individuals and small business owners who are passionately committed to creating more enriching lives and futures for themselves and their families, and seek wise, safe solutions to fund their dreams and their journeys, as well as to protect their families. Through financial education, for greater understanding and insight, My Money Life helps forward-thinking families to powerfully advance their lifelong dreams and intergenerational legacies of wealth. It's time that we start shifting the way in which we look at life and the way we look at death. Avoiding and delaying protecting our families come at a very huge cost. And who pays the highest price? Bottom line, the highest price will be paid by our children and our grandchildren. This is a short course on why we must build family legacies of wealth and know that it's not beyond our reach. I'm Maria Dowd. I'm a licensed insurance agent, certified financial educator, and CEO of My Money Life. Take good notes and everything you'll hear within the next 30 minutes to heart. As an insurance agent, I must share this disclaimer. So take a moment to read it. And should you have any questions and would like a copy of it, you're welcome to email me at info@mymoneylife.com. In addition to my passion for empowering families to elevate their generational legacy game, I founded and produced African American Women on Tour, which is an empowerment conference that my team and I toured around the country for 13 years and featured such notables as Iyanla Vanzant and famed vocalist Gladys Knight. I'm also the author of 3 inspirational books on personal development, including Journey to Empowerment, Journey to a Blissful Life, and Journey into My Brother's Soul. And I'm also the mother of 2 incredibly amazing daughters, Janelle and Lauren, and Mimi to my grandson Noah. And I'm also a proud holder of the National Financial Educators Council certification for financial education instruction. To read my entire bio, you can visit my website at www.mymoneylife.com. And LIFE, L-Y-F-E, is an acronym for Live Your Freedom Every Day. So, what is this movement all about? First things first, it's a reality check. It's time for us to peel back the layers that cover up our procrastinations and the little stories that we tell ourselves. We convince ourselves that, put it off later. I don't need insurance. I don't need to have conversations about money. Certainly don't want to have conversations about illness and death. But what's real? There really isn't a single person that I know, at least, who's walking the planet Earth who doesn't know someone, whether it's in their immediate family or someone else in a friend's family or a colleague, that found themselves totally and financially unprepared for the worst case scenario. That caused a lot of heartache, uncertainty, and financial suffering. But what's really more important than that is, what about our lifelong dreams, that we have for ourselves, our family, and our future? There are certainly things in life that we haven't experienced and that we want in our lives. We see it in, other people's lives, and we want it for our own. We want to own a home. We want to send our kids off to college and get college degrees and not come out with a bunch of college debt. We want cash to start our businesses. We want to travel to faraway places. We all have those dreams. So here's where my journey began. It came with this fateful phone call that I made that literally changed the course of my professional life. What I gained from that 2-hour conversation was a lot of insight and a lot of clarity. And I also discovered that it was precisely aligned with my passion, my vocation. The thing that I live for is for women's empowerment and community transformation. One of the key revelations that came out of that conversation was this very disheartening findings from the study that was released by the Institute of Policy Studies. And it found that at our current pace, that it would take Black families 228 years to build the amount of wealth that white families have today. And it would take Latino families 84 years. Both numbers are equally startling and unacceptable. And it was an impetus for me to join the $1 million baby movement. Okay, so here are some more cold hard facts. This particular chart shows the huge retirement savings gap between white families at the average of $130,000 versus Black families that average $19,000 and Latinos $12,000. I think that we would all agree that something has to shift. So aside from that screen that I just shared with you, there's also a huge gap between the total value of assets. For white families, their total value of assets average around $141,000. And that's compared to $14,000 for Hispanics. And Blacks have the lowest wealth value of any other segment of our society at an alarming $11,000. Overall, as we probably have figured out in our own lives and seen other family members experience this, women are far less prepared for retirement than men. And then there's a lot of other modern day concerns, that keep us distracted, that systematically instill fear, stress, anger, paralysis. And then there's the fight of the unraveling of our healthcare system. While it wasn't perfect, no, but it was a way of balancing the delivery of health services to the American people. So this too impacts our quality of life and our ability to build legacies of wealth for our families and our futures. Today, in our current political climate, there are more issues and concerns that we have, still continue. We thought we were over and done with, maybe not. They still continue to exist and show up in the news every day. It's really disheartening. And so it's not easy to consider, much less focus on building legacies of wealth for our families and futures when we have all this other stuff going on around us. But we don't have any other choice. We have to get focused. We must turn our sensibilities and energies towards building up our families financially and to ensuring that we have something of great wealth and of value to leave behind to our next generation. Let's talk a little bit about the American dream, the dream of great, well-paying jobs, attending college graduations, traveling all over the world, happy, healthy families, wonderful love relationships, living in our dream house in our dream neighborhood, and that are filled with all the community services and social experiences that we want and desire for our lives. That is the American dream. So let's talk about the American dream. To live in safe and welcoming in communities, live in a beautiful home, and to send our children off to great schools and they have tremendous track records for preparing our children for college, and then to become high-earning professionals and entrepreneurs, etc. And it's not just a dream. We can manifest this for our families. And I'm going to show you one important tool that can potentially leverage to move us closer to achieving that kind of lifestyle. And it's something to consider, and it is so much within our reach and our capacity and ability to achieve. But I'm going to go back for a moment to HGTV. Okay, so you see young couples, they're walking down the street hand in hand with their real estate agent. They have $200,000 or, they've qualified for a $400,000 and $600,000 house. And the house is it's a great home, or maybe it's a fixer-upper, but it's in a great neighborhood, a great school district. And how is that possible? How have families made that possible? The ability to have a great down payment on a home is fueled by what? And I'm going to ask this as a challenge. Can you guess? You're absolutely right. Inheritances. Matriarchs and patriarchs like yourself who simply commit to wisely and powerfully setting their families up to have financial resources to build upon the American dream, generation after generation after generation. And if it isn't a part of your family history or culture, I promise you, you can start shifting that right now. In a recent Bloomberg article, it was reported that inheritance mattered substantially more than ever considered. Having money to pass along to our next generations that enables our children and their children to start accumulating wealth earlier in life. That's a powerful revelation. One that we often brush over because we get caught up in, all the other things that we think really matter. And now we can make this possible. If your family is powerfully and sufficiently set up, that's fantastic. However, if this is not a part of your family's reality, you don't have to resign yourself to staying on that path of being and underinsured and not having the platform and the opportunity and the solutions to make a difference in your family's lives. So going back to HGTV, because I love it so much, So, you see the families are walking hand in hand. They qualify for 200, 300, 400,000, $600,000 house, or even more, actually. And I once heard one of the families say that they'd come across an inheritance and, from their grandmother, and it was $600,000. So they were able to afford like an $800,000 or $900,000 house. In that moment, I promised to myself that I would be one of those grandmothers, that I would be one of the grandmothers to leave something of financial substance to my grandchildren and to their children. So this is our call to action, our personal challenge to rise above our circumstances, economics, and politics. So my question to you is, who's ready to take an unwavering stand for their children and for your family's legacy? So what is this movement about? It's about reversing trends. It's about moving our family legacies out of the financial basement. Bottom line, we have to put an end to choosing this dank just destiny for our children. At the end of the day, despite the challenges we face, it boils down to choice, because we have far more choices than we give ourselves credit for. A well-known economist, Joseph Stiglitz, once said, "Inequality is not inevitable." And I would challenge all of us to agree with that. Inequality is not inevitable. Yet, despite the fact that it's ingrained in our society, our government policies, our commercial practices, we still have to stand taller than that. We have to choose not to make inequality our predestiny, our fate. I challenge you to say that we're bigger than that. I love this quote. It pretty much sums it up. Every damn brick they try to throw at you, use it to stand on. That is the truth. What about our biggest whys? Without a doubt, my grandson is most definitely my biggest motivator, my biggest why. He's my biggest driver, and because of what I want for him and for his children and his children's children. I also want this for my mother and my daughters. I have a little story to tell you. My daughters always tease me because I've always been the worst at buying gifts for the holidays and that sort of thing. I just could not ever get into it. I'm sorry. And I was one of those resistors, I don't know, for political, social reasons or whatever, but I was just a resistor to get caught up in the present buying during the Christmas. And not to say that I didn't honor and celebrate it with my family, of course, but the whole commercialism around it, I just could not get my head around it. Then one day that shifted. And that was the day that I invested in permanent life insurance policies for my daughters and my grandson. So I simply traded what I would ordinarily hustle and bustle and get stuff that they didn't like and didn't use or whatever. I actually started resigning to just getting gift cards, and I don't even do that anymore. When I got those policies, it was a gift of cash accumulation. So it's access to cash, okay, and supplemental retirement income. These are checks that what I'm foregoing in those gifts today, these are checks that my daughters will get for life every single month, as well as a hefty amount of pot of cash for my grandson. That in itself was worth it for me. So once again, I ask, what is this movement all about? I proudly serve as one of a growing community of catalysts for the $1 Million Babies movement. And I invite you to join ranks with us. It's going to take a national effort, one community and one family at a time, which should start with your family, to help understand and gain greater wisdom around our finances, and to utilize the right insurance vehicles to substantially make the American dream a reality. Permanent insurance is not about death, but it's also about life and so much more. It's about having a legacy and having something to pass along to our children. It's about funding college for the lifestyle of our choice. It's about a worry-free retirement. It's about a continued quality of life without interruption. Because what happens if a key breadwinner get seriously injured or ill. It's about having a roof over our head that we own, but it's about having that safety net so we can keep that home within our family. It's about care and comfort for our aging family members. And for our college students, our graduates who, it's about them not having the heaviness of substantial debt and the worries and the heaviness that comes with that as they start their new lives and their careers and their businesses while trying to navigate student loans. It's about leaving that legacy of wealth for our children and our children's children. They deserve it. The $1 million baby movement, its success depends on reaching thousands of families nationwide. So we must partner, we must collaborate with others of like minds to come together and to really spread the word about the importance and what kind of value that permanent life insurance can bring to your family. There really is no better time to serve communities in grander ways and with far-reaching impacts intergenerationally, but we've got to work together. There are opportunities to supplement your income now. If you're looking for a new or full-time gig, side gig, full-time, then, we're here to make anything you want possible. This movement is about hope, it's about conviction, it's about confidence, and it's about trust. Because our children unconditionally trust us as their guides, their protectors, and champions for their future. Finally, the $1 million baby movement is about taking action to ensure that our long-term quality of life, well-being, and safety are taken care of. Well, how do we get started? Starting point is to recognize really how often we get in our own way. And I say that because it's so true. We talk ourselves out of the stuff that we need and talk ourselves into the stuff we want. We've got these stories. Of course, we have our hopes and our wishes, and the things that are like the first things first that we need to be putting first are the things oftentimes we most procrastinate about. We do nothing about. We put nothing into motion. And really, no matter how healthy you are and what kind of longevity you have in your family, we really don't know what we don't know about our future and what might happen. And we have to be prepared for the unexpected. And not only do we have to be prepared for the unexpected, but we should be prepared for the transfer of wealth to the next generation. This is the absolute only way that we're going to turn those stats that we talked about earlier around, is by starting earlier and to make a change for our generational betterment. The choice of ours. We want to continue pushing our kids' future into the basement, or do we want to commit to being a catalyst for an elevated quality of life? We have to begin with the end in mind. What are your biggest whys? I talked about mine earlier. What are your biggest whys? What do you truly want and need for yourself and your family, for your parents, your children, your grandchildren? We have to prioritize our goals. We have to strive for a more balanced life. We acknowledge that we don't have to do it all. We don't have to do it all. We don't have to have everything, particularly if it means that we are overextending ourselves. We have to simply prioritize and reprioritize and be proactive. There's a saying that says, if you put first things first, second things are thrown in. But if you put the second things first, you're going to lose both the first things and the second things. That's a really, really profound saying. Because this is what happens when we put second things first and third things first. The cart's before the horse. Our life is turned upside down. I know this life because I experienced it. And then who ends up paying the price? Our children. Intergenerational legacy of wealth is lost because we chose not to put first things first. So when we put the cart before the horse, our lives end up underwater, like this picture. We end up delaying or not being able to buy a home in our choice neighborhoods. We end up having to buy into or live in neighborhoods that have less equipped schools. We increase our stress and distress in our lives. We have more costly loans. It has an impact on our hiring and our careers, higher medical expenses, and we lose leverage. We lose the ability, leverage our income for bigger things and for accumulating that wealth. And here's some more hard facts and figures, really about just going back to the single subject around college graduates with large student loans entering the workforce. They experience far more emotional turmoil than students with less college debt. They have a lower sense of self-purpose, lower financial management capacity, and lower physical health. We don't want that for our kids. Tony Robbins says, he kind of sums it up in this really cool concept that he teaches. He explains certainty in the light of uncertainty that surrounds it. And he says that certainty is not a feeling, it's a habit that we have to create. Certainty is at the top of our hierarchy, our top priority. Certainty is what is our comfort and our security. Oftentimes, we kind of look at it and want to go for the love and the connection, the growth, the contribution, the significance, the variety, the travel, the adventures, and all those kinds of things. And we kind of like skip right over the uncertainty part. And it comes at a really, really, really high cost when we skip over certainty. We become more insecure and uncomfortable. We're not able to live our desired lifestyle. We don't have as much free time. We don't have as much fun. We don't have as much independence and self-sufficiency. We're not able to help families and our friends as much. And we have to forego or never really make that positive impact that we want to have on that legacy that we want to have on our society, on our community, on our families. So it's important to focus on increasing our financial wisdom and our financial capacity. And it's also important that we teach our children about wealth. So going back to the conversation about putting first things first, the everyday stuff. I mean, we're talking what? Our net worth, debt management, budgeting, credit cards, inflation, interest. I mean, all the things that we really need to put first things first that we often don't. But also within that category is insurance. And insurance, it is the most often misunderstood and often most avoided certainty product that we need to have for ourselves and our families. What's missing is that we really don't have the proper insurance oftentimes, and oftentimes we are underinsured. So I want to explain the distinctions because not everybody really understands this. So for starters, oftentimes when we think we have permanent life insurance, what we really have is term life. And the reality is that term life burns out. At some point in time, it's going to end. And it could end at an age where you are no longer insurable, or your insurance that you were paying and happily paying $25, $30, $40, $50 for is now more like $400, $500, $600 a month. And that's provided you can even get it. Also, what we don't really sometimes understand is that when we leave our jobs, our policies go away. We also kind of buy into oftentimes, and now I'm not saying that everybody falls into this category, but a lot of people do, and that shows up in the stats that I talked about earlier in terms of the value of assets and that sort of thing. We buy into the thing, buy term and invest the rest. But do we really invest the rest? And I argue, based upon the facts and figures, that we don't do that. And then also, is term life aligned with your living needs? Absolutely not, because term life only kicks in when someone passes away. It cannot be used while you're living unless you have a bunch of riders on top of that, which most people don't get. And then the other thing that a lot of people have and really don't quite understand is burial insurance. So 2 questions. One is it adequate? And oftentimes at the end of the day, once the payout comes, it really isn't inadequate to cover it in a funeral. But the other thing that we need to take into consideration is oftentimes before there's death, there's illness. And so what do you have to protect you and your family if you become ill, seriously ill, chronically, critically ill, terminally ill, or injured, and you're the primary breadwinner? So we have to account for that. And then also, sadly, people resort to GoFundMe because they were underprepared and they were uninsured. And we're aiming to turn that around. How do we turn that around? With permanent life insurance. Permanent life insurance provides lifelong protection, the ability to accumulate cash value, and it remains in force for as long as you pay your premium. For permanent life insurance, the instrument that we talk about most is the Index Universal Life Policy. And the Index Universal Life Policy provides benefits that most life insurance policies don't. If you die too soon, you get your death benefits, which all of us are familiar with. That's a typical or benefit of life insurance. But also, the Index Universal Life Policy protects you. If you live too long, you can set yourself up for lifetime income. And then also, if you become ill, chronically, critically, or terminally, you're able to tap into your death benefits. Okay, now you can use your death benefits to tap into and to cover some of your day-to-day expenses. And this is not long-term healthcare, it's something different. So you're able to pay your house note, you're able to keep your bills paid, keep a car running so you can get to and from the doctor. And the other thing that it provides is cash accumulation, so that you have an amount of cash accessible that you can tap into for college, to buy a home, to build businesses, or other investments. So how does it work? The red line here is the Standard & Poor's. So this is the ebbs and tides, the ups and downs of the stock market. This is money that's inside of the stock market. Understand that, that's inside of the stock market. Now, when you use the indexing strategy that we're proposing, is that even in the worst of times, you don't lose money. So your cash never gets lost. It doesn't earn any interest, but it doesn't lose anything. And you can see from this chart that the indexing strategy, which is something that Warren Buffett is really big on, that it outperforms, or has historically outperformed the money that's inside of the stock market. So it's something to consider, the benefit of Index Universal Life Policy. In a nutshell, we can help you protect your money from loss while providing for growth. We can help you put compound interest to work for you and not against you. We can maximize the use of tax advantage savings and lifetime income. And we can help you to figure out ways to redirect monies that are probably maybe overspent in other places and other avenues, and make it work better for you so you can get more value for your money. So imagine now this is one of your kids, and they're less stress and less worry, higher well-being. The interest is compounding daily, so there's cash to invest in their college education. And young people can start accumulating assets earlier and have a legacy to pass on and to build for the next generation. So we have to start somewhere. And so it's time for us to start now. Warren Buffett said that someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree long ago. That's a really powerful statement. So, are you ready to secure your family's legacy, have a higher quality of life after retirement, protect against unforeseeable medical crisis, explore our business opportunity, and join the $1 million baby movement? My Money Life is here to help you and your family avoid emotional and financially disruptive circumstances, and instead to curate and master lifestyles that meet your present day realities and goals, strategically and solidly paving the way to a highly gratifying retirement. And that's important, those words, highly gratifying retirement, not one that's full of struggle and pain and sorrow and having to depend on your children and your children's children for survival. It provides a more profound sense of purpose and family legacy. So what are the next steps? One is to book a consultation with yours truly, your insurance agent, Maria Dow, to complete a data form, Together we can determine your needs, and then we'll run complementary illustrations so you can see exactly what your money will get for your life insurance policy for yourself and your children. And then we complete an application. It doesn't take very long at all because it's all done electronically. And oftentimes, if you are getting insurance that's getting the Indexed Universal Life policy and it's $250,000 and under, you don't have to even get a medical exam. And you can secure your family's future. So it's important to wisely and permanently protect your family. So here's my contact information. Call or text me at 619-750-8232. You can email me at maria@mymoneylife, that's LYFE.com. Or you can visit my website and submit a form that I would have your information can follow up with. And you can visit my site at www.mymoneylife.com. And with that, I close. I thank you very much for joining me. Live your freedom every day. Much love.